do that. BJ, can you give us a thumbs up if you can hear us? Thank you.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll call the city council meeting to order for 5/24/22 at 6 p.m. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilmember Dumas.
Here.
Councilmember Elwood.
Here.
Councilmember Graves.
Here.
Councilmember Mills.
Here.
Councilmember Pittman.
Here.
All present, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I'll declare a quorum. I failed to put the financial report under standing committees, so we'll have to pencil that into the agenda. And with that change, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move we approve the agenda.
Second? Second. Jerry seconded it, Linda made the motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Ceremony of minutes. We have minutes from 2 prior meetings. Wes distributed them. I didn't print them off because at the appropriate time, the computer head guy was hooking up the new printer and mine was disconnected from a printer, so I didn't print them off. So, but any discussion on the minutes? From what dates?
I don't know, I read both of them, I didn't see any
April
problem.
19th and 28th.
And 20.
We have to go separately.
And 20.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from April 19th and April 28th. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Pat seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved.
And that was Ken that made the motion, was it not?
Yes. All right, ceremonials, recognition, proclamation, and in memoriam. And hearing none, we'll move on to reports. Wes, you have a financial report. Wes distributed the financial statements.
Yes. We ended. If you look at the balance sheet, we ended the month with 80,313 in the general fund, $5,000 in the general reserve fund, and 79,179 in the street fund. Total receipts. General fund for the month were $21,500. And the street fund, they were, sorry.
That's okay, no problem.
Street fund receipts were 25,120.
This is April, we're looking at, right?
Any questions?
These are the April statements, right?
That is April.
I reviewed those. I have no question.
If you want an update, because we are going to be talking about some finance related matters here later, I believe. The general fund balance at the current date is 76,900, and the street fund balance is 109,362.
This is May receipts.
Yes.
Which is important because we're going to pass a resolution or discuss a resolution to transfer 90,000 of that back to the general fund, and general fund reserve. Any questions on the financial statements?
Make a motion, we accept the financial statements for April.
Ken made a motion to accept the statements. Do I have a second?
Second.
Jerry seconded it. Any discussion, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I did do a little bit of round numbering, and we are pretty much tracking our budget as far as revenue and on expenses, other than street money and buying some computers. We really haven't spent any money yet this year, so we're in okay shape. All right, next on the agenda, economic development.
I have a couple of positive things to report. Jerry Van Cleve is going to have a grand opening of the, I think he's calling it the Magnolia Inn or something, hotel. That's going to be next week. And also next week, Hot Box Pizza Truck, which has already been operating out here, opened up a storefront, Hot Box Pub and Grill. So I talked to Maya, or however you pronounce his name. He was really excited about that, and Jerry is just over the moon over getting that hotel open.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but yeah, he was full this past weekend because of the fishing tournament, and he kept saying that liquor license was going to be his salvation, and he just is over the moon. I think you were the first person to partake that first day.
Of course.
Well, you want to go on record saying that?
A good politician now, checking our work.
Politicians are supposed to kiss babies, not.
Hadn't heard anything from Rodney Balance. I imagine he'll either get back on that or
Be the sheriff.
no.
Judge, yeah.
So anyway, that's what I've got.
Okay. Did I ask you at one time to start gathering some information on VRBOs and stuff like that relative to business licenses and hotel lodging tax, and
I don't remember that, but I'd be glad to do that.
why don't you? 'Cause,
Okay. I'm I've already started doing some work on the noise ordinance. And there was a post on Facebook this weekend about the city had the noise ordinance, and everybody said no. And Jerry Van Cleven said he had music last Saturday. I was afraid it was about him, but it wasn't. It was a neighbor of this guy. So, but the industry standard on noise for an outdoor venue is 65 to 70 decibels.
at what distance?
From the back of the property.
It's still trying.
Which in his case, if he's on that front deck, the back of the property would be on the street,
Or would it be?
or would it be down?
Be down.
65 decibels is the ambient noise of a typical office. So that's pretty quiet.
Well, he's got an event Saturday night, and he's ordered a decibel meter, and he'll comply with whatever we come up with. So I think he's going to start at 65, and then unfortunately I'm not going to be in town Saturday, or I'd go and see. But and then eventually he's going to build an amphitheater down at the bottom there, and he's already checked with some people, and is going to build a shell around the back of the stage to keep the sound from drifting off across the water to over on the sailboat.
Or to the apartments right across the track.
Yeah, I mean, so he's trying to do everything right, because he thinks that entertainment will drive business, and it will.
As far as the VRBO stuff too, I may have mentioned this in the previous meeting, but I've done some research on other cities' ordinances they put in place to, you know,
You asked her. to do it.
not totally ban them, but to put reasonable controls.
Maybe I asked you to work on it.
Well, no,
I forgot who I thought I asked somebody.
I was more, I think my interest in making sure that we had something in place that we could live peaceably here in Holiday Island with those types of places.
Yeah.
And Jerry, I have several news articles I've clipped from other communities in Northwest Arkansas. I think
Okay.
those two-
Fayetteville is talking about that right now. They're working on an ordinance
They already have a fairly good one in place.
that they're looking at revising it.
It could be, yeah. That's, I got,
Eureka had one, and then they got so much complaints over that gravel bar or whatever, they had to revise it to put down an uprising event.
Well, it's getting some visibility again because Eureka Springs Independent ran 2 weeks back-to-back articles, one about subsidy of the golf course and then the other one questioning whether Holiday Island was a retirement community or a vacation destination. And I thought it was appropriate to put this in kind of some context or perspective, so I wrote a follow-up. I don't know if they're going to use it as a letter to the editor or a guest contributor, but at any rate, tomorrow's Eureka Springs Independent will have my take on the situation. And I addressed the issue of VRBOs and stuff, not from the standpoint of is it positive or negative. It's basically raising the question, is it a positive or a negative? And
Well, but there were a number of problems with that story, the fact that nobody from the city was contacted, and
that's one of the reasons why I
yeah,
provided the city's
and
perspective.
then just
So,
a certain official throwing the city under the bus.
You had previously mentioned the issue of a lodging tax. And as I recall from our meetings with the attorneys, they said that would not affect our receipt of our share of the county sales tax.
yeah, but it also can go into general revenue. So, we could be generating some revenue off of a lodging tax, but it would have to go into something that we don't budget any money for now. It would have to be a new endeavor for the city, something relative to parks or, as Danny puts it, it's a heads in beds tax. So whatever you spend money on it is supposed to drive more vacationing and stuff like that. So anyway, so Jerry, I'd be glad for you to
Okay.
try to start pulling some information together on that. Planning Commission,
The only thing I'd have is that we're still waiting for the attorney to review our zoning ordinances, our regulations.
it has finally risen to the top on his stack. So
Okay,
So it shouldn't have been that long because he's ripping it apart.
now,
Okay.
he said that all of the cities that he represents right now are just, it's a flurry of activity in every city he represents, for whatever reason. He doesn't really know why, but his workload is up here, so we're getting our share. All right, under old business, status of the sheriff's contract, it's still kind of hung up with the quorum court. And I tried to call Jack today, but the number I have for him is out of service, so,
Cell phone number?
yeah. So,
I called him last Friday, I think.
after the meeting, I'll check to see what number you have, but the number that's listed on the county website
You wanna talk about it or
is
not?
out of service. I don't think there's anything to really talk about
Well,
until we get the quorum court moving forward.
well, the issues all seem to have to do with the second deputy. What Jack told me was up, and he wanted to know if we couldn't use the existing contract, and I said, well, that's with the SID rather than city, if you can switch it from the SID to a shared contract. And I called him back and left a message, I said, why can't you pass the current contract is in negotiation, and we'll agree that we won't bring on the second deputy until next year.
Time phase it in,
But
possible.
the issues, he said, were with unbudgeted costs, that has to do with the training of the second deputy. And
What I was gonna ask Jack for was some detail on that, because the sheriff himself didn't seem to think that was an issue.
well,
And
according to him, the sheriff's not involved in this.
Somebody convinced them that they should wait till the new sheriff.
They said they talked, and I told him that wouldn't work, and I told him we needed the contract.
Well,
What about until we get a deputy or a police department, we're not passing all these ordinances. Can we not hire on a part-time basis an off-duty Eureka officer to do just that? Serve those warrants?
probably.
Shouldn't it be
It
something?
just has to be, when it comes to serving citations, it has to be a sworn officer. It doesn't have to be a police officer or a sheriff's deputy. You can, a code enforcement officer can be sworn in to enforce ordinances, but not sworn in to enforce criminal code and stuff like that. But so eventually we could get our code enforcement officer sworn in, but in the meantime, you might be right if we just.
Well, again, my
occasionally-
experience with it is in Oklahoma, where we had several small towns, and they would hire off-duty Chickasha officers to, at some point,
So good. Good
times of
point.
parole, to serve warrants.
I think we could contact Butch Berry and see if they would be interested in doing that.
We've got the waste ordinance that goes into effect this summer. We've got,
We have a Berryville policeman living right up the street here.
well,
Well, we got any retired officers live out here that we use?
Rusty.
I think there's a couple that live off of
Rusty.
that are sheriff's deputies or police officers.
But I think we need to get an answer pretty soon from Carroll County, and if they're not gonna work with us, then we need to take an alternate path.
First thing I need to do is get a phone number that works for Jack, so I can call him and talk to him. But Jerry, your idea, that may have a lot of merit.
and I'm sure, that there'll be somebody who would want to do it a few hours a week to,
Gotta be somebody
yeah.
willing to do
Just a question, I think you mentioned in a previous meeting maybe that if we were to use a code enforcement officer that we hired to do that kind of citation writing, you just mentioned they all we need to do is swear them in, but you mentioned there was some sort of training program they had.
it. And that,
It was pretty rigorous.
there's, I guess, there's two different things. We don't want to get them confused. The building inspector training is pretty rigorous because you gotta be licensed for plumbing, licensed for electrical, licensed for the Arkansas Building Code,
You kind of know how to
and
know what you're doing.
HVAC. And there's 4 different things you have to be licensed for.
Yeah.
And the tough one is electrical because you have to have a couple of years of actual hands-on work experience working under the supervision of a licensed electrician. So that's the tough one, but the code enforcement officer, I haven't been able to figure out exactly what would be required for them to be a sworn officer that can issue citations, that can enforce city codes and city ordinances.
Well, when I hear the word swear in or sworn officer, it's like, okay, you come before the mayor and you take an oath of office, period.
No, I don't think so.
So what is more? What is it?
I don't know what more is, but if you're gonna be a sworn police officer, you have to go to the police academy. You have to, qualify.
That's why I said,
and
don't you have to?
Arms, you have
It sounded
to
like you had
have
to
a certain knowledge of jurisprudence and know what the laws are relative to,
Surely the municipal league has an answer to that, because we can't be the only small.
Well, yeah, what did David Wu take? What's his background to be a code enforcement officer?
he's not the sworn officer. They have the police department issue the citations. And that's what a lot of cities do. Now, Eureka Springs, Bobby Ray is also a part-time city policeman. So that's how they take care of it. But it's a rare, now I already talked to him. He said he's already working 70 hours a week and getting paid for 40, so.
Well, no, we paid.
He's not interested in doing anything more.
We paid.
Okay, so. We'll keep working on the sheriff's contract. Notification of mailing for trash pickup. I gave everybody a copy, except Wes, I need to give you.
So this is pretty much the original one, isn't it?
Well, I shortened up, the one we put on the website was about a page and a half. I shortened it up to fit on one piece of paper. If we have 2 options. We can go with a letter size, tri-folded, tabs, sealing it, and postage put on it. Or we can go with a oversized postcard size. And
That's what you
It's
got.
got-
Second
yeah,
one.
so if we go with the full letter size, which would be my preference, based on a quote from Wicker Walker that Linda got for us, they would do the printing, folding, and put the tabs on for $459. They would hand apply the postage for an additional $60, and then we would have to provide the stamps. And the stamps, I believe, are 58 cents,
And we're talking 950.
960 or something. So the total cost would be about $1,075 to go with the tri-fold full letter, which would be my preference, even though it's pretty expensive. Because I have more information in there, obviously, for people that aren't.
To me, that's fairly reasonable. I mean, the mail out I did during the campaign was.
You're just gonna do this to
Just
residents
960
that are not
Right.
CCWS,
Right.
CSSW.
For $779, we could do the postcard size, so
It's
it's
only
$300 difference.
Do it. Do the big one. The more information you give them, the less kickback we're gonna get.
Right. And the thing I like about it is that we don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
That stuffing envelopes the last
Well,
time.
that prevents comments, any criticism saying, well, I don't have a computer, I can't look at it at City of Holiday Island.
Well, and that's basically why I wanted to send the letter, because some people don't do computers. Otherwise, we just direct them to read the same thing on the website.
I'll make a motion to spend at least up to $1,100 for this publication.
Lynn made a motion to spend up to $1,100 to make the notification. Do I have a second?
Yeah, 3 cents.
We got 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
I'll pick Jerry. Jerry's in the middle, so he gets the second this one. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Are you gonna be able to coordinate this before you leave?
Nope. I don't know
Dang it.
how.
All right.
You gonna leave
We
it?
need we need to get that spreadsheet into a single spreadsheet of just the address file for her.
I can do that for the last version that I sent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the address of where the bill goes to, not necessarily the address where the meter is located.
Wherever you want it.
Yeah, because I think there's 2 addresses
They're all-
There.
on the column.
I'll turn it down, so it's just the mail delivery address.
Yeah.
Essential information.
Okay.
Okay.
You gotta
Right,
fill out
thank
the
you.
paperwork on the post office and to do the mailing. Do that.
This is
It's not,
just
it's
gonna
not one of those mass mailing
be, no,
deals. You don't have to. go
it's
through
just
that
gonna be
procedure.
regular full postage, and it's gonna have the stamps on it, and
Yeah, you just deliver.
We
it to
just-
the post office.
take the whole big box to the post office.
Do you think there's a preference on the rank, how I should sort it? I had it sorted by zip code. The matter, because I can't sort it by address, and I don't know the sub-route, so.
It'll go, just go through the regular machine at the
Okay.
post office, I
Alright.
think. So.
I'll
probably
just sort
doesn't
it
make
zip
any
code.
difference.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you. That takes care of that. Next on the agenda is resolution 2022-006, transferring funds. Wes, you wanna, well, I guess let's do this correctly here. So entertain a motion to approve resolution 2022-006, a resolution authorizing a transfer of funds from the street fund to the general fund and the general fund reserve for the city of Holiday Island.
I'll move to approve it.
We have Linda made a motion to approve. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second it.
Pat seconded it. Okay. You want to read the resolution, or you want me to read it? I can read it.
Resolution number 2022-006. A resolution authorizing a transfer of funds from the street fund to the general fund and the general fund reserve for the city of Holiday Island. Whereas resolution 2022-002 authorized a temporary transfer of funds from the general fund and the general fund reserve to the street fund in order to initiate a road paving project being partially funded by a grant from the state aid street program. And whereas the street fund now has a balance sufficient to transfer those funds back to the general fund and the general fund reserve. And whereas resolution 2022-002 requires the temporary transfer be reversed by year end. Now be it resolved by the City Council of Holiday Island that the City Council approves the transfer of $20,000 from the street fund to the general fund and $70,000 from the street fund to the general fund reserve as directed by resolution 2022-002. Passed and approved by the City Council of Holiday Island, Arkansas on this date of 5/24/2022.
Okay, do we have any discussion on the resolution? Not, we'll call for a roll call
Councilmember Dumas,
Aye.
Councilmember Elwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Graves,
Aye.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Pittman.
Aye.
All in favor, Mr. Mayor?
Okay, that resolution passes. And we can move on to resolution 2022-007. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2022-007. A resolution approving and adopting an updated personnel handbook for the city of Holiday Island, Arkansas.
I'll move that we approve it.
I'll second it.
Lynn made a motion to approve the resolution and Linda seconded it. Wes, I think, you know, obviously, we're not gonna read the entire employee handbook, which is 38 pages. It's attachment A to the resolution. It will be posted on the website, so if you want to just read the resolution itself.
Okay. Well, there. Resolution number 2022-007. City of Holiday Island, Carroll County, Arkansas. A resolution approving and adopting an updated personnel handbook for the city of Holiday Island, Arkansas. Whereas the city council for the city of Holiday Island needs to approve a personnel handbook for use by the city for the purpose of establishing an updated guide concerning personnel activities in order to define the personnel policies and procedures of the city. And whereas, after review and consideration of the updated personnel handbook, the city council for the city of Holiday Island has determined that it is in the best interest of the city of Holiday Island to adopt it. Now therefore, be it resolved by the city council for the city of Holiday Island, Arkansas, section 1, the new Holiday Island personnel handbook as indicated in the attached exhibit A copy of which is attached here too, and is hereby approved and adopted for use by the city of Holiday Island. Section 2, the city clerk treasurer is hereby directed to place 1 copy of the updated and revised personnel handbook on file in the city records. Section 3, 1 copy of the updated and revised personnel handbook shall be provided to each person currently employed in any capacity by the city of Holiday Island, and 1 copy shall be provided to any and all future employees of the city. Section 4, upon receipt of the updated personnel handbook, each employee shall be directed to execute a receipt in the form attached to Exhibit A to the updated personnel handbook, and each executed receipt shall be placed in the respective employee's personnel file. Section 5, upon termination of any employee, his or her personal copy of the personnel handbook shall be returned to the city, and the return thereof shall be noted in the employee's personnel file. Passed and approved by this 24th day of May, 2022.
Okay, is there any discussion on the handbook or the resolution?
I have one item.
On the hand,
This is kind of the handbook is called an employee handbook, the handbook itself. The resolution calls it personnel handbook. I would suggest that all references to personnel handbook be changed to employee handbook,
Okay.
so that it seems nice.
You're right, it is called. the employee.
And also, at the top of the handbook, it shows it being Exhibit A, and the resolution calls it attachment. No, it's called Exhibit A in the resolution, and it's called Attachment A in the, at the top of the book itself.
Okay. We can make those corrections.
So
That should be the exhibit.
There's like several where all throughout it, it's called, it says personnel, it should be
Yeah.
changed to.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
And for technicality, section 2 refers to a city clerk treasurer. I think we have a treasurer recorder for an officer.
Yeah.
Recorder trade.
Recorder treasurer
Treasurer.
rather than clerk treasurer.
Different cities do it different ways.
Right.
Where did we get this? Where'd you get it? What city did you use as a guide?
I use the municipal league.
Used?
They have a standard. I made a few adjustments, modifications, and Justin made a few corrections or additions. And Linda made some suggestions. But 95% of it is the template that the municipal league gives.
They've been at it a while.
Mr. Mayor, I've got one question, and I apologize if I missed it, but does this address at some point social media?
Yes, there is a social media
Mhm.
section in there.
It's a big section.
Okay, with those corrections, any other discussion? And we'll call for a roll call vote to approve as corrected.
Councilmember Dumas,
Aye.
Councilmember Elwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Graves,
Aye.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Pittman,
Aye.
all in favor, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll make those, then the resolution is adopted as corrected. We'll make those corrections tomorrow and then get it posted.
But they already had one.
Well,
Get to go through.
At least
one of
we're,
those from
that,
scratch.
we're batting 500 today. We got one through with no corrections. In the pros, we'd be making a lot of money batting 500. All right, approve the hire of the code enforcement officer is next on the list. I do want, well, I've basically extended an offer subject to confirmation to Aaron White. He has expressed an interest in doing this job ever since it first came up. And we've had many discussions over the last couple of months about it. Another good discussion today. He expressed his concerns and we basically talked through them. And he's ready to take it on. He would like to start out slow, and I totally agreed with him that the first step would probably be to have him job shadow either David Orr over in Green Forest, who seems to be pretty well on top of this, or any other code enforcement officer that's willing to invest a little time in training, helping us train. And then we're going to carefully pick and choose what violations we're going to go after initially, so that we all learn together how this is done. I would entertain a motion to approve the hire of Aaron White. And he's okay with our wage structure and vehicle reimbursement as we have included in the budget. So
Did we buy him a computer?
we have a note.
We bought a Surface Pro for him. We also, he could also use the
Desktop.
old desktop that we inherited too.
It's old, but it works.
Will they be salaried or hourly? Hourly?
Yeah, I'll get with you on all those details.
Or would he be contract?
No, he's gonna be a part-time employee of the city.
Okay.
As a point of order, are we just approving your choice? Because, or are we approving the employee? I'd prefer that we just approve your choice.
Well,
Accountability and ownership. Does the city council, is it responsible for hiring employees? It's not in our job description. It's not ours.
no, other than the fact that it was in the ordinance or something that the city council reserved the right to approve the hire in this position.
My opinion on that is, he's working for you, you're gonna have to be responsible for him.
I'm good with that. If no vote is required, I'm good with it.
I'm thinking saying no votes required.
I think
Not
about just
specific.
to approve
Your choice.
your choice.
I guess I'm,
Well, we're not saying that he, I think what Lynn's saying is, we're not saying that he's the guy that should, he's saying that we think he made a good choice, or we approve your choice, rather than the person. Is that right, Lynn? Is it?
yeah, the position was already authorized in the ordinance.
Right.
So I don't know what purpose, if you're not going to approve the actual hire, what purpose would another vote be?
Do you know what the state statutes require as far as council approval of employees? I don't.
There is none.
I don't think. He's the chief executive, and I don't think. I think it's customary for departmental heads or something like that, but since this is just an normal.
What harm is it to have one more vote to approve him?
I'm just asking procedurally, are we required to, or should we not? Do we have to, or should we not, is the question I have.
I don't know the answer.
I kind of think, and I don't know for a fact, but I kind of think that we're only required to approve
The
the
position
positions,
and the
the
salary.
salaries, but
Through
the
the
budget.
budget.
So we don't have to approve of him.
But it-
I know that-
Fill it.
You know,
I think this was just a
I mean, it's a courtesy.
courtesy, yeah. I make a motion, we approve it.
Well, what are you approving?
The hiring of a person,
The filling of the position.
filling of the position.
I think it's appropriate we do that. It doesn't do any harm.
okay, I have a motion to fill the position from Ken.
I'll second.
Pat seconded it.
Yeah.
I think we can do this on voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I will get back with my selection.
Is he gonna have to have office space too then, or is that?
This
Linda,
is getting crowded.
Linda has a desk to donate
Yeah.
that hopefully we'll be able to get in
Well, you
the
got
office
that- you
without
got that
breaking
good
it in
piece of
two.
stuff you brought back up from.
The one, the two-piece one,
Yeah.
it's in the landfill.
Oh.
It was a victim of the Carroll County Solid Waste Spring Cleanup. Or maybe not a victim, maybe a beneficiary.
Well, just to comment on that spring cleanup, we put some bunch of stuff by dark, it was all gone. Seriously, I mean, it was just what people will collect, I don't know.
All right, that's it for the agenda items. Public comments? No public? Council member comments?
I have. Did you get a hold of, what's his name, the guy from CSSW about the second?
I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet, and
Follow up on the sheriff thing. I did call Tony Rogers yesterday, and he was busy, and he was gonna return that call. Yet I'm still waiting,
okay,
because Jack said he was a player in the discussion.
any other council member comments? I do want to put a plug in for, I can't plug the Big Bass Tournament in total because we didn't get back in time to get down there in time to stand in 3-inch rain downpour. But apparently, even with the rain, it was a big success. We did get down there in time to have some of Collins fish. And it was some of the best catfish that I've really ever had. So if Colin ever has a fish fry again, I highly recommend it. Very lightly battered, fried just perfect. So the boy knows how to cook some fish. All right, scheduling, next regular meeting. June 21st. June 7th, 14th, and 21st. Do we meet on the second or the third Tuesday? Third Tuesday, yeah,
Planning commission is second.
23rd.
It would get me in trouble. It's the birthday.
First, did you say?
You say 21st?
That's the first day of what? You
It's the
said,
first day of summer, but
oh,
it's also the wife's birthday.
oh. Bring her along.
Yeah, happy birthday, Dave.
Jerry, you wanted to bring up possibly having a workshop?
Yeah, we all got the deal. Hassid wants us to come meet with them on the 20th of June. That just made me uneasy. I think we ought to have it sooner than that. And one member's not going to be here there the 20th. So my idea would be to have it and invite them at one of our workshops, which it's been a while since we had one, and have it later in the week that Linda gets back, maybe on like the 9th. And then, or the next week, the 14th. The sooner the better is my idea.
What would the suggested agenda be?
Well, I mean, a lot of issues, well, I just think that Hassid is not working with us. I don't see any evidence of that.
The workshop was requested by King Brown.
They have, the HICID used to have two regular
Well, I
meetings.
mean, they have, the meeting that you're talking about is their regular scheduled workshop.
Yeah,
But Ken Brown wanted he wanted a joint meeting, and they suggested doing it then. But if that's the day before our regular meeting.
Yeah.
So,
I don't want to tell you what, it still sticks in my craw the way we were treated that first one. I mean, that was an ambush.
I'd like some advance on what topics they want to talk about.
Well, we ought to set the topics, and then if they want to bring up some other stuff.
well, this isn't, this meeting that they invited us to is not a joint workshop, a joint BOC city council workshop. This is their regular monthly workshop. workshop, and they're extending us an invitation to us to come, just like the general public
We can come anyway. I mean, it's
Well,
not.
they also asked that we provide agenda items, so I don't know that it's totally just on
I would-
them. I think they wanted us to contribute.
I would request that you talk to Danny and see what you can work out. Having it the day before our regular meeting. And
That was the impetus of saying that if we're gonna do one, whether they want to call it a joint one or not, if they ask us for agenda items, then we ought to have it sooner.
But I mean,
Because it would be, they meet the night before, just like you said. So if we come to any agreement or anything that, of common, requirement of action, then it's gonna be another damn month.
I think some of the people on POC have that opinion that, you know, this is supposed to be a partnership, the city and the district. And I don't feel that we're going down, I don't feel we're going down the same path. I think we're going like that. They're not sharing the vision that I think we need to at least share the vision and the program that we set forth in our attempt to get
The incorporation.
incorporated. Yeah, we had a plan, 4 or 5 pronged plan. You know, we were going to get the turn back funds. We're going to get enforceable codes, building codes, sanitation codes, these kind of codes. We were going to get a police department, and we were going to get the district budget down to where the assessment against the AOB would be less than 6%, so they would have a continuity rather than running out of money and are doing
I think that's the biggest
a
issue.
reassessment of benefits. And
'Cause they're
the
not-
actions that they've taken this year do not reflect that they share that vision.
Well, I think part of the problem is that we're not necessarily, don't seem to be working for the same goals right now. I mean, and if we had a workshop together, maybe it should be facilitated or something, but, you know, and lay out what are the common goals and what should each body do to.
I don't think they realize, my personal opinion right now is they think they're gonna keep going just like they are forever.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
I think they don't know how to get out of that cycle.
Well, we had a plan. And
Well, we
they're,
never had a plan to get them out of the cycle. That has never come to fruition, that plan.
well, I mean, it requires us to work in conjunction
Yeah, and
and cooperate.
I mean, I realize it's a different manager now, but it was, I mean, Lawrence was talking about that if we get the city money, Hassan gets the city money, that it will be lower assessments. And, you know, in the first budget they do with him gone, they increase the assessments and then show $1.5 million surplus. I mean, that's stupid.
Well, the $1.5 million surplus isn't a real surplus.
I understand, but they didn't tell you that.
I think what they found was when they got in the budget meeting, they found that they couldn't meet the expense budget with enough assessments. And so,
I tried to make it as clear as possible prior to incorporation that, speaking for the incorporation committee, that we could not promise anything we couldn't guarantee anything because those decisions would be made by future elected officials. And we couldn't control events that are going to transpire or have transpired, like wages going from what we were getting away with paying, $9 and $10 an hour, to $17 and $18 an hour.
Well,
And fertilizer costs doubling and things like that, so there's things that, you know, that nobody has any control
Well,
over.
their explanation in that newspaper article was that the city, there's no, they didn't use the word guarantee, but there's no guarantee of when they're gonna get city money.
Well,
And,
that was true last year, if you recall, early in the year, we weren't getting the.
but we
and they
came
thought-
back,
thought we would.
that was this year's budget.
Oh, that was last year.
yeah, for
Because we-
2021.
because
Well, I'm
the
sorry,
state was giving us money.
I
instead of
understand
we
that, but
But we more than made up.
more than made up. No, unless it was in there and I missed it, there was no mention of the $600,000 project that we got a grant for and pump money from the tax money.
I mean, we,
And more revenue actually came in than. was
Yeah.
projected.
yeah,
And just like Dan said, we're on target.
but at some point in time, we need to have a meaningful discussion on who's gonna do what to whom. And we need to do, the only way that we can reduce the district budget down to less than that 6% is take over some organization. Us pass a millage, but it happens to be offset by their reducing cost, and the only way you can do that is transfer a function.
Yeah, and that's basically what we said also during the incorporation process.
I don't think anybody's
We would
buying
not
into it,
raise, we would not impose any new taxes
and I won't,
unless it was offset by a transfer of some function.
but we
And
would,
that's another thing. They had, he's not on the BLC anymore, but every time they would get flack, from the public about, assessments, they would say, well, if we don't raise assessments, the city's gonna raise your taxes. And we've not even discussed that. I mean, we said in the corporation, campaign, no new taxes, and we've held that.
and we will hold to that.
We will hold to that.
Unless there's a plan to reduce the assessment.
But I'd like to see us have a workshop, invite them. You know, if we want to get somebody to facilitate it, that's fine. And I just don't see any benefit of waiting another
And
month.
the only reason we need to have it now is if we're going to go into a plan like this, in November, we have to send a document to the county saying we want to collect the tax. And I will not go on with that unless we have a firm commitment that we're going to do something.
I don't know that anybody's talking about imposing a tax millage.
Well, that's the only way we can take over an organization.
I don't disagree with the need to have a long-term strategy. That's not what the workshop that they're talking about that's coming up.
Well, then we don't need it.
We don't need it because we didn't know that last time, and the first words out of Bob Dyer's mouth was, we want to know what y'all have planned. I mean,
Well, I don't know.
that was an ambush.
Yeah. If we can't have that kind of discussion, then I see no need for it. And I've been an advocate of having.
Well, I think that would tell us a lot if we have one and invite them and that we want to, get to some common ground on some things. Would tell a lot if they don't want to do that.
It may be premature.
Why don't, instead of, it seems like we ought to, rather than go to one of their scheduled meetings, it ought to be scheduled outside of either of our normal.
That's fine.
That's what, yeah, if we do it on June the 9th, that's a Thursday. Nobody meets on June the 9th.
Well,
And that gives both
I'm just not
board.
sure that gives us enough time to plan adequately for the meeting. Because we've got to get some ideas. You have to have a structure of the meeting. That's why that last meeting failed so miserably, because there was no structure to it.
That's right, it was an ambush. They had,
Don't use that word, that's a.
well, no, that's how I feel. You know, you can't take that from me. That's exactly how I feel, and that's what it was, in my opinion.
Okay. But I would suggest that we spend a little bit of time with Danny and
The two, how about the two dams?
planning this meeting on neutral ground, neutral territory. We all sit at the table and invite the public and have an agenda that has some structure to it. And I would even suggest having a facilitator run it instead of one of us run it.
When it comes to, the strategic planning, I wouldn't argue with that. Somebody would need to facilitate it. I guess I don't feel the same. I don't want to use the word animosity, but I don't feel the same level of frustration about lack of cooperation between the city and the district. And it's probably because Danny and I talk to each other all the time and pretty much know what, it's very, very rare that I get blindsided by something that Danny is doing or going to do, or he gets blindsided.
What about the sheriff's contract? You, for 4 months, you said, I'm waiting on Danny. He said, we want to go together to discuss the contract.
Yeah.
And then in December, they're waiving the contract. Is that not true?
That's one issue.
That's a big one.
And
We don't have a contract now.
we do, between us and the sheriff and the district, we have a signed contract. We just can't get the quorum court to act on it. So that's not a VOC problem, that's not a city problem. We need to work together to push the quorum court to move forward on it.
I think you're right. And I realize Jack has got problems that, I just hate to push him, but I don't know who else to push. I tried Tony Rogers, and obviously he knows what I wanted, he won't talk to me, so I could go, go over to his office and corner him. But that's, Tony and Jack are the ones that are holding it up.
I guess at this point, the city has their things that they're responsible for. The district at this point has their things that they're responsible for. For the lack of having a long-term plan that says that this is how we're going to transition responsibilities over time, and this is how the city is going to fund it. That's the way it's going to be. They're going to run their budget, we're going to run our budget, and there isn't that much, meshing of the two. So I guess I'm not quite sure what we should be getting, what more we should be getting out of the district that would help us do our job. And from their perspective, I'm not sure what more they need from us that would help them do their job.
Well,
Other than the contribution of what we might do for streets and roads,
the
the financial.
the whole idea is to better and strengthen the community. And it's not the city, it's not, and we stressed all along, there's things that the city can do that the city can't. I spent 9
They're doing
years,
those things.
and we're working on those things.
Yeah.
But we have to have, police power to do it. And The other thing, and I may have missed, one of those meetings I sat in at, so the excuse was put out. The reason they raised the assessment is because they didn't get as much money from the city as they were promised.
They went on record in that article 2 weeks
And
ago.
That's,
I don't remember that in the
it
article.
was there. It happened.
There was that comment in the article.
Yeah,
And I take offense at that because we more than that, we gave them $600,000 of value this year that they would have had to take out of their funds.
Maybe they were, I don't know, maybe they were referring to last year, not in contributions.
Well, they were talking about last year, but the bulk of our funding that we were gonna give them was always in roads.
I know, and they didn't spend their money.
And
last year.
they scrapped the road fund. So, and they did, they generated $700,000 real money profit last year. The other buried in non-payable non-collectible receivables, okay?
Mhm.
And I had that discussion with them yesterday.
Well, I don't think we ought to be knocking the board of commissioners. They do a fine job. They are hardworking people.
Well, I just don't want to see us
They are honorable
get knocked
people,
either.
And
I think-
they all have the best interests of the community.
I think everybody needs to be very cautious about what you say to the press.
And talk
we don't talk to the press.
Well, I did.
Well, I know that you're.
My article will be in tomorrow's.
You're the spokesman. But we don't rarely, unless it's just something blatant, correct things on social media.
I
And
stopped doing that.
yeah, you can't win.
You know, there's no sense getting in the mud with them. Can't win.
Well, and a lot of times,
But I think,
the comment that's made in a conversation with the press can be kind of taken out of context or made into something that wasn't
Well,
intended to be. made into.
I do like the idea of trying to come up with a agenda for and having a facilitator or what, and, you know, see if we can come to it.
They can make it neutral on both sides.
If we have common if we have any common objectives, do they, I mean, you know, one of the strongest selling points on an incorporation thing was getting the assessment down to where it would not reduce the AOB. Because there's no way that we want the district to have to go through a reassessment of benefits. Because you're gonna get a lawsuit just as sure as you're sitting here.
However, with inflation being what it is, I am not sure that's gonna be possible
Well,
with
I think
wages,
you can.
food, energy, fertilizer.
Well,
Everything going up.
the other thing is, you know, is to go in and change the methodology of assessing and go to ad valorem. I mean,
You don't have that ability with the,
well, you can change the statute.
not the state statute.
Yeah, you can.
Try it.
Well, we just won't let Bischoffs go down there.
So, in my opinion, the way the statute is currently written, you just can't do an assessment of benefits to boost your assessment base. You've got to add new benefits.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Wes, your chances of getting through a reassessment is pretty slim without. Anyway, that's my thoughts, and that's where I'd like to see us go. And, you know, we're getting close to where we're all gonna have to decide whether we're gonna want to go down this road again next year. And if we don't have an idea where we're going, I'm out.
Well, I think it'd be good to sit down and talk about these things, but
I think it needs
when
to
you're
be
talking
talked
about a
about.
long-term plan, You're not gonna come up with it in a couple weeks or
No.
a month or.
Well, I would think that that would be accomplished at this meeting, but it would give some clear.
Realization that it has to happen.
Yeah, then something's gotta be done and that we can get on the same path. I mean,
I don't want to,
Why don't we all write down objectives that we want to achieve in the meeting, in a beginning meeting,
it's fine.
give them to Dan.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have ideas, but I don't know, you know. We have, you know, we got the two organizations and we got to work together to get there. And I'm sorry, you know, I laid off any criticism of them for a long time.
And I'll comment, I know the comment that I always heard from one member of the community who had a lot of influence, that wasn't necessarily in favor of incorporation, said that the two couldn't get together. They'd always be fighting with each other.
That's why, that's what happened over at Bell Lewis.
the two cooks in the kitchen analogy.
Well, we can't have different agendas. I mean, we have common goals and common goals.
And we have to be willing to work with each other too.
I'm willing to work with them. Just that I don't want to be blamed for everything.
Point taken.
That's about the only thing that. There's two things that I can take away, that I'll take away from this whole conversation that we just had. We need, you know, we have a common interest in putting together a long-term plan. And I'll work with Danny on that. And we don't want to keep getting blamed for stuff that unfairly blamed for stuff. And I will address that with Danny also.
Because, you know, we all live here. And, you know, the only way we can make the community better is to work together.
But quite frankly, I am very satisfied with the pace at which we are implementing things in the city.
Yeah.
For not having any paid employees, any structure, you know, we were starting from scratch with nothing. And we got a lot accomplished already. And, you know, we don't, until we have all, you know, everything that's on our plate right now functioning, we really don't need to be talking about, okay, we're gonna transfer this from the district. We're gonna transfer this from the district. Who the heck is gonna do anything with it? We don't, you know, it's. I think,
Well, that's the only way you.
I think we are focused on the things we committed to do. And I think that it's getting done.
Well, all but one. Reducing the assessment.
and.
That's
law
not
enforcement.
our, that's not our responsibility.
It was one of our goals, is one of the things we put forth in the incorporation.
And I said over and over and over and over and over again, we're not gonna guarantee that.
I know.
And if you're sitting there now acting like we guaranteed it, we did not. I did not.
Well, there are people out there think we did. Yeah, and I think you were answering.
I've been around long enough to know that too many things change. You better not be promising stuff that you have no control over.
Well,
You can say directionally, this is what we would like, this is what we're heading for,
well,
but we're not making promises.
you know, what I'm saying is, I think we gotta talk about it.
All right, any other comments? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Not having too much fun.
I'll move adjourn.
Lynn moved to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Any seconded, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.